everybody, and welcome to This Week in Indies for October 10th, 2021. And I'm not going to tell you why I look like this. We'll tell you that in a second. But enjoy this little intro that we have for you. Maybe it'll give you a little bit of a hint as to why. And then we'll be back with the group. I've got a great group of people with me today, so here we go. Welcome. It's our fancy round table this time around. Look at how snaggy everybody.
Snaggy. Yeah, a little snaggy.
Yeah, that too. Welcome everybody to This Week in Indies, and yes, look at everybody dressed up, nice and neat.
Snazzy.
For those who don't know, today is National Tuxedo Day, so it kind of worked out. We were planning to do this anyway, whether there was a National Tuxedo Day or not. It just happened to be kismet and worked out that way. So, but this is the brainchild of the man below me right now, Mr. Ron Lahr, and so. I hope we didn't disappoint, Ron. Do we all look pretty nice for you?
You're gorgeous.
All right,
Thank
cool.
you.
Yes.
Well, let's find out who's here and who's dressed up and sitting comfortably and uncomfortably as we do this. But let's start down. I'm just going to go down the line. So, Madilynn, why don't you kick us off?
Hey guys, I am Madilynn Dale, and I am dressed up. You like my whole fake fur jacket and everything this morning with the whole little fancy shirt. Anyway, and I am excited to be here today.
Awesome, welcome. All right, Mr. Nettles.
That would be Nettles, James Nettles, and yes, we're here for the full proper accoutrement. I did show up fully kilted, as was requested. Not that you can see, because I can't step that far back in the office. Science fiction, fantasy author, occasional smartass, and generally nonfiction, whatever the hell else I happen to be involved in at the time, which who knows.
Awesome. Welcome, sir. And Miss Julie?
Yes, and I have bling, and I do. It was great. We put on like real dresses, really nice. I'm split between an inspirational nonfiction and dark crime and horror. So fiction and nonfiction, and I'm looking for a way to meld that and relaunch it as one by the end of the year, I think.
Awesome.
Inspirational horror.
Nikki?
Oh, hi. I am Nikki Nelson-Hicks. I am all dressed up in the bling. I have Mr. Bone Daddy. He has joined us today as well. I'm a horror writer, speculative fiction, pretty much anything you pay me to write, I will write for you. And I tend to kill conversations with a line. So that's me.
All right. You don't kill conversation. You begin
I
them.
do. They just go. And it's like, oh, goddamn, what did I say now? All right, I'm sorry.
And certainly, last but not least, Mr. Ron Lahr. Mr. Lahr, tell everybody about yourself.
Hello. I write fantasy, science fiction, and humor.
Sorry. Keep going. Sorry.
Slow down on that wine.
I'm so sorry.
All right, no more shots.
So,
I am sorry. I'm a hot mess. Can't help it.
Take two, Ron.
Take two.
hi, I'm Ron Lahr. Today I am wearing a custom Mariners tuxedo vest. I have a tuxedo collection.
Ooh.
It's only 2 tuxedos, so it's a very small collection, but still more than most people,
Mhm.
And I have many tuxedo vests. Since the Mariners, I live in Washington State. The Seattle Mariners almost got into the playoffs for the first time in 20 years. And so I'm wearing a tie to go with their colors. I have my Mariners cufflinks on. Anyway, go Mariners. And the thing about this tuxedo vest is before my mother had, got Alzheimer's and was no longer able to sew, she made me this tuxedo vest with her
Aw.
friend, and it is very nice. Not like when some people make clothes and it looks like shit. This is actually very nice, and I've worn it to many fancy events, and received compliments, especially when I say that my mommy made it for me.
Aw.
But so that's to honor my mom a little bit, as well as the Mariners. They both mean a lot to me.
Nice. That's awesome. It's fantastic. And Stuart said, "Yeah, you wore the
Yeah,
kilt."
you wore the kilt.
That's awesome, Ron. Wow, that's a hard act to follow, brother.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But we are here to do a show. I know that's crazy as it sounds, and as I move my arms like nowhere. Yes.
I was told we were just supposed to show up and look pretty.
Yeah.
No, they want us to be smart too.
Ah.
I know, right?
Well, all right. I'm done.
I temper my expectations on that. That's on that latter part there. So the former part, you all look great, but the latter part, you don't have to be smart. You can talk. I don't. Whatever you say, it's gonna, whatever. It's gonna be what it's gonna be. Anyway, this show just got off the rails in 7 minutes in. All right.
And I didn't even do it this time. So
No, it was all me. It was all me. Anyway, so yeah, earlier this week our world came crashing down, and it was kind of weird and interesting, or maybe not. I don't know. I mean, it was like half a day, maybe
6 hours.
6 hours. Is that what it
Mhm.
was? Wow. See, and it didn't feel like 6 hours, so it wasn't like a Kubrick film, so that's good. But or a Malick film. It was more like a Tarantino film, I guess, because it went by fast for me. I don't know about anybody else, but I was doing other stuff anyway. But it doesn't.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
And people calling me going, "Hey, I can't get into my app." Yeah. I told you not to use Facebook as your SSO, or if you're going to be that stupid, not your only way in. Oh,
Yeah. I was actually very happy not to hear the stupid dings that I hear on my phone like constantly. It was actually really refreshing for a little bit. But I don't want to be cut off from people. That's not what I'm saying. It's just those dings drive me crazy sometimes. But it's interesting because there was a lot of people going, "What do I do now? Facebook is a really, really important place for independents, authors, artists, everybody, and it seems to be one of those universal things. And so it's kind of like, if it was to really go down, which it didn't. If you believe the conspiracy, Nikki was talking about conspiracies and things.
I love a good conspiracy.
But in the spirit of that idea, though, what are we? What is your thoughts on having something that you really are into being taken away, and then having to is it plan B something that you all have? Is there something that you look at, or you just go, "All right, the world's ending. I guess I'm done." Where are you all at when thinking about this? I'm sure you've all pondered it a little bit, or maybe not. I don't know.
I pondered it a lot because I was wondering about that. What would I do if suddenly Facebook was gone? What would I do? Because I do a lot of marketing on it. I have a lot of friends. And then I started thinking, the friends. Well, anyone that I really want to keep in contact with, I will find a way to keep in contact with. I have other methods. Emails. I know where they live. I actually know where they physically live. That's a big thing. But as for marketing, I was thinking about this. And I thought, well, you still have your blog. Well, everybody has a blog. I still have TikTok. I still have Instagram. I still have Twitter. But as for, it scared me a little bit. It really did, because what would I do? I have a lot of friends I wouldn't be able to actually get in contact with, or push the show, or push whatever story or a book I'm pushing at the time. It's kind of scary, but I really think we'd find a way to evolve. Humans are like cockroaches. We find a way to evolve. We're the cancer of the planet. We find a way to evolve, but it would be scary. That's what I'm kind of hoping. What is your plan B so I can learn from this?
I'm kind of with you there, Nikki, because I have all the other social media outlets that I've been working on. Not so much of like increasing my number of followers, but like the interaction between me and like followers on there, just because Facebook for me hasn't always been the best place to market my books. And TikTok has actually been a bigger marketing platform for me lately than Facebook.
Yeah.
Well, to me, this goes back and proves something that, we've been arguing about and actually telling people to do for years, which is really simple. You don't own those platforms. That's not your real estate. You're not paying to use them. They're not your toys. And I mean, it's not just the couple of hours it was down because somebody didn't know how to make their DNS entries.
I know.
Which was
or get in the office, couldn't get in the doors because their security keys wouldn't work.
Yep. And,
oh my God.
When we look at things over the last year with people being deplatformed, when we look at all the different things that have happened, it's all about what's the real estate you own and control. So if your entire empire is built based off of a social media platform or even a couple of social media platforms, you're vulnerable. I mean, really, if you're going to be building it, it's all about how do you get people on your real estate, mailing lists, things like that you own and you control, and having multiple ways to get a hold of people. But fundamentally, it's not just about does the platform go down, it's does the platform change its rules tomorrow, or do you get bumped and lose your following, your monetization on a platform because somebody doesn't like something? What happens if you get locked out of your account? I mean, this has happened to several people I know. Well, it happens several times. I know at least once a month where somebody gets locked out of their account. An author we know recently was locked out of their Facebook account for almost 2 months. The only way, because they said, you're not that author, it's a dummy account. And it finally took getting their agent and publicist involved with Facebook to prove, no, this really is their account.
Amazing.
So it's not just the great joy of it was quiet for 6 or 7 hours. It's really more about the lesson that everybody should take away from this, which is any of these things can go away for hours, for days, or potentially permanently. I mean, we do know that MySpace was kind of laughing a little bit when things went down. But to me, that's the whole thing is how do you reach customers on stuff that you own, your platforms?
So you're saying basically having a website that you actually own. You own
and a mailing list so that you have a mailing list.
I don't have a mailing list, and I need to do that. But the idea of it just makes me want to go, oh my God. But I guess somebody should look into really seriously, because you need to have that. You need to own that. And it's a way to connect people without worrying about getting zuckered. Mm-hmm. Or, if you end up I've been in Facebook jail for over a month, and it's weird. It takes you a few days to get used to not constantly looking, and you can get Facebook jailed for nothing. Mm-hmm. I got Facebook jailed for nothing, for reposting something that I found on Facebook. And obviously someone that I just friended reported it as being porn. And it wasn't porn. It was a fucking trailer for a movie. And I got zuckered for an entire month.
Wow.
It was amazing. And you can go ahead and, fight you want. It doesn't matter. They don't care. Because truly they don't care. So it's a good idea. I'll have I was making a freaking mailing list and MailChimp, something you sent us earlier, a little thing.
MailerLite, not MailChimp. MailerLite. Go MailerLite.
MailerLite.
I think Jim makes a really important point here and I have only been a fiction author for a few years. So I think we need to take this point that for people just coming into being an author, or maybe you've been one for a while, and like Nikki, I mean, I just got my newsletter going about a year ago. It is really important, and not all authors know this. I didn't know this, that don't have one place, have multiple places. So it's a really good learning for whether you're an author or some other type of artist, but you're running your own show. Definitely have more than one platform. And the courses I've been taking lately actually really drive that point that your website is your landing page, and then you have all these other things, whether it be Facebook or TikTok or Instagram, that share off of that and ultimately lead your readers or your followers back to your website. And definitely the newsletter. I really didn't realize how important it is, but also to Jim's point, I love it. Not everybody knows I come from a computer science background. And so for me, I've always saw Facebook as it's free. You're not paying for it. There's no service level agreement. You can't assume that it's always going to be there. But that's not necessarily common sense. It's just that I worked in an area where people were paying for certain agreements that a system would be up a certain amount of the time. And that's not the case with a lot of these free things that we're using. And not everybody knows that. So it's a really good lesson to be aware that just understand this thing could go away or something could go wrong. It's a really important lesson.
Yeah, because I'm a muggle. I'm not. I'm a user, which is the worst. But I have a friend who works in computer security, and he refuses. He won't do anything on any social programs because he's like, no. That's how you get everything stolen from you. That's how you get your bank account broken into. Also, he's a little bit of a conspiracy nut. So put that in there too. So crap. I guess I'll have to do that.
Well, I was lucky.
You do need to be aware of what data is there, though, and who owns that data. I mean, you can call people nuts, but just be aware that there is a certain level of truth as to where your data goes. So,
all right.
I think he has truth to it. I mean, he's all about the dark web. He's always talking about that and all that. But he's much smarter, far smarter than I'll ever be.
All right. To get back on track, though.
Okay. Yes.
I was not adversely affected, because I got the advice that Jim gave early on, and so my newsletter is my main thing, and not having access to Facebook didn't matter at all, but only because I wasn't running any ads at the time. The only place I run ads so far has been Facebook. I haven't done Amazon yet, and I've done a little bit of marketing, like at a book launch with a service, but not. The normal everyday ads run on Facebook, but I didn't have any up now because I have books coming out soon, and I was waiting for that to happen. But if I had been expecting sales, that would have bothered me.
Mm-hmm. Well, but I think it goes back to two things that Julie just said that I would actually disagree with. Number one is you actually have signed a user agreement. You've signed a EULA. Because that EULA says this is the rules when you come play on our toys. And that's the reason they can bump you, bounce you, everything else. You actually have signed a service level agreement with them that says this is what I can and can't do to play on your platform. And more importantly, it really isn't free. It's costing you potentially a lot because you are the product. You're being marketed to. That's the entire way that those platforms pay for what they're doing, who they're doing, who they're doing it for is you're the data, you're the platform. You're being marketed to. And that's what we as authors have to know and balance is the difference between the marketing that we're doing, the people we're trying to sell to, and then also being aware that when you use that platform, you are the product and the amount of data that gets gathered on you. I mean, the top things that get people into trouble are when they go do the fun quizzes and what version of pumpkin spice latte are you? And, whatever else the case may be. That's the stuff that gets people in trouble because you give away data that you don't know you gave away. Yeah. So again, it's not free and it's very data driven. And so when you look at the amount of data that's gathered, when you look at things like go to run ads, think about how much information there is behind that with the ad that you're building in that space and how much you can target it. One of the famous old stories, which is absolutely true because we replicated it, was earlier on was somebody took and targeted ads all the way down to the only person they would apply to was their roommate to go screw with them. And while the algorithms don't work the same way anymore, they put you in pools and all this other sort of stuff. The amount of data that gets gathered about you to be able to market to you more effectively, and the amount of that data that gets sold about you, is a tremendous amount of data movement that both benefits us as authors when we're going to go run ads and build platforms and all this other kind of good stuff. At the same time, you got to keep in mind of where's that data coming from, and that's you and your behavior and the other people you interact with.
Good points.
Yeah. Explains why I was Googling about dog collars, ended up getting BDSM ads on my FB. It was weird. Why am I suddenly getting all of this leather harness stuff? I'm like, what? It was, and I started, okay, get it. Leather dog collars. I found that we can just be talking about stuff, and it's almost like Miss A over here hears us, and before you know it, you got all this stuff on your Facebook. Or she'll pop up and tell us, hey, by the way, so-and-so's on sale. Do you want to buy it? Which is kind of scary.
You mean if I went and said, hey, Alexa? Oh, wait.
Shut up. Don't say the word, man. She who must not be named. So.
The other thing is that the funny or ironic thing is that Facebook's connected to other apps, too. So a lot of people use Instagram, for example, as their backup to Facebook when they're connected, and then when they both won't go down, it's like, It's kind of interesting to see how many people flocked back to Twitter at that point, because a lot of people left Twitter. But,
a lot of people on TikTok are also connected to Instagram because TikTok is having a lot of problems shutting people down for whatever reasons, or I don't understand all that. But I'm like, okay. But these are actor friends of mine who are using TikTok as a way to help push their careers, which I understand. It helps them get gigs. But yeah.
Well, we often talk about, and this is often a theme on discussions about how we present ourselves and how we market ourselves and how we use social media platforms. We often talk about how you get proficient at one or two of them, and you find the ones that you really like, and you stick with those, but that you make a side presence on the other ones if you can, and even if it's just to mark your place in that space. But this kind of screams for a little bit of, you need to diversify a little bit, doesn't it? I mean, it kind of says that maybe there's something to be said for learning some other platforms, not just the ones. And
it's fun too. It's fun, and it helps keep you on the pulse of things that are going on. I mean, I don't use TikTok as much as I'd like to. I just don't have the skills. There's so much skills. When you watch TikTok for a certain amount of time, there's some brilliant stuff put on there. You're like, mine looks like something made in the kitchen, which it is usually. But no, okay, yeah. I have a website. I just now have to do.
I like what Joe said, because you said take the two you really like and get it going on there, that was told to me before, and I did that, and it's great. And now I love that how you said at least make a presence on something else, and then that gets you in there and starting to learn it, but not like stressing yourself over having like 5 or 6 platforms at once. That's a really good idea for an approach, I think. Because like Nikki said, there's so many out there, and we can't do them all. It's too overwhelming.
Well, and the other thing that you can do that can help you on some of that is when you're building content, one of the good things is that you can share it across multiple platforms, and you can automate some of that. You can use stuff like if this, then that, or automate stuff on your blog when you put out a blog post for it to share other places. I mean, there's a lot of things you can do to automate things and make life easier. At the same time, different platforms like different formats. When you look at TikTok or Instagram versus Facebook, do they want portrait or landscape? Do they want it squared? What kind of format do they want? And a little bit of that is intentional to say, we want content unique to us. So when you're doing things like that, you've got to look at what you're sharing and how in some formats, but you can still do a lot of sharing across them. But it's like anything else. Social media platforms can either work for you or be a huge time suck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's my problem, time suck. Oh, so much time suck. It's like you get on usually TikTok or YouTube, and before you know it, 6 hours have passed. And you're like, what have I done with my life? What have I done for the past 6 hours? And you've gone down this really weird kind of, weird hole. And yeah, you think I'm going to do some research. No, you're not. You're not doing research. You're just procrastinating and finding something that gives you some dopamine. So yeah.
Anita says she just moved over to Twitter. So yeah, I think that's interesting. When you experience something like this too, I'm curious how many people out there, if there's anybody out there who has done this. I'm curious. When you didn't have Facebook, where'd you go? And was it a platform that you had just put a placeholder on and maybe you explored it a little bit more? Is that something that you think if this happens again, you might think about? Because, I constantly market all the time too. So, and I don't market to just Facebook. I use other platforms, but but it is something that I think about. Am I diversifying enough? Am I spreading out and using the platform the way it should be used, kind of idea? And I can't, like Nikki said, and Jim said, that you can't be there all the time, right? So you have to figure out, you have to map that out a little bit, right? So it's interesting to think about it from that perspective too. Would any of you think about, is there platforms you've ignored lately that maybe you would think about going back to? A lot of people use Pinterest, and I don't use Pinterest, but I have a presence there, and maybe if Instagram is not available to me, that might be where I go, because it's kind of similar, right? So, I mean, I'm using a lot more LinkedIn these days too, so that might be a platform that I look at because it's similar to Facebook in its interface. So,
in a way, but I've never found much fun on LinkedIn.
Yeah, that's the only thing. It's more.
Yeah,
more
but
business.
that's changed a lot in the last year.
Yeah.
I mean, LinkedIn has become much more of a more social network with where you're not finding cat videos, thankfully, but you are finding more valuable content, I think, in wider topic areas than you were finding, 2 years ago, where it was, I need a job. I need a job.
Or colleges. I'm constantly getting emails from colleges via LinkedIn about, don't you want to further your educational career? No, thank you. I have no desire to spend $50,000.
I made one of those back when I was in college, and I think it's still hanging out there. I don't know. I haven't messed with it. But doing one for my author stuff, that may not be a bad idea. So,
yeah, Jim makes a good point. I actually have a huge community on LinkedIn because I had a previous life, and like I said, I'm only a few years into my author life, and so I don't post everything there because it is more professional, and I'm a little more cautious. But I do post things, and surprisingly enough, there's actually a lot of authors on there now and a lot of people building author profiles. And I have sold some books because people that I worked with at some time or another, they're like, oh, you're an author now, cool. And then they read your blog post or they see your advertisement. And so I put like interesting blog posts, or if I'm having a launch and there's a virtual component, or if there's a book coming out, I put certain things on there, and I think it's a good place to go. And if you are just starting to build up, I think it's still good because, like I said, I've seen a lot of authors on there focused on their author life. So, I mean, why not give it a whirl?
Oh, here's an interesting idea to talk about. I mean, we lost Nikki. But to me, this is how I think about it, right? LinkedIn is a professional platform, but I run a professional business. I have a brand, right? And why not be branding myself on LinkedIn? It seems like the platform to use that more effectively for than any other platform. I mean, social media to me, and I've always said this, and this is something that a lot of people have always said to me, and I've said back, and that's basically social media is the construct of social media is in the word. It's being social. It's being social and sharing media. So it's you're really, when you do that, you're engaging in a different manner, a friendly manner, in a more playful manner. But with LinkedIn, it's a professional site. So then you have your brand, right? And why not be able to, publish your brand there? I mean, if you looked at LinkedIn, even back before we were talking about this, as Jim said, it changed about a year ago, but Apple was branding themselves on there all the time. Xerox, I saw a lot of stuff from their Drafted Digital was posting stuff, and they were using it, and I thought that's pretty smart. If you're posting it as your brand, like Killers and Demons is your brand, so you could really post that, and that would, you have like you said, you have a built-in network already. So
I mean, like the Business for Authors book. Anytime I do a LinkedIn post for that, it gets way more traffic on LinkedIn than any of the other platforms.
Yeah.
And some of the workshops and other things that I do and teach, of course, those are also not just for fiction authors either. But
right, is that do you think that's because more over because those are the kind of people who aren't on the social media platforms that are just now seeing it because it is where they gather, or do you feel like it's just the nature of what you're doing that people gravitate toward?
I'd say it's more the nature of it, because the demographics there are a little bit wider target of people that, because again, it's being targeted to more creative businesses, not just authors, but I mean, it's primarily for people in the writing space. And with some of the workshops I teach and some of the consulting and things that I do and whatnot, LinkedIn is an easier space to reach a lot of people, but it's not, and it's a lot of time the ideal space, but that doesn't mean that there aren't other things. So like for Continual, we run everything to Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. We're looking at adding in some of the other platforms. I just need to have the time to do that. But when we look at running those shows, we want to start doing clips that'll go to Instagram and IGTV and Twitter and some of the other platforms. It's a matter of time and benefit. But for some of the things that I do personally, it's where do they go? And I mean, I'm on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Sometimes I do show up on the Hive and Scum and Villainy that is Twitter. And I have a love-hate relationship with Twitter. But, Pinterest is a great one because of where it falls on the search engine. But the question is, where are your readers at, or where are your buyers at? Because your buyers and your readers aren't always necessarily the same. But that's what are the platforms that you want to be on and engage on, but also you're running a business. Where are the people you want to engage with for the professional on the business side of it?
Margaret said, wait, did someone say kilt? Yes.
Why, yes. Yes, I am.
Mr. Nettles is wearing his kilt today, Margaret. So, yeah. But yeah, it's the reason I asked that is because I'm finding on LinkedIn, LinkedIn is very good at connecting you to connecting the dots, right? So it's very good at saying, well, this person that you're connected to is connected to these other 6 people, and they're not people that I've seen before on social media platforms. I may know a few of them just because I get around and I've talked to people, but it's and then a lot of them I don't know. So it's kind of like this whole thing of reaching a new arm of people that I never thought I would never interacted with if I was just on Facebook or Twitter or whatever. And so it's kind of, and TikTok is the same. TikTok I found was very similar. I was finding a bunch of authors who were connected via my connections, and we were connecting that way. And that was interesting to kind of feel that. And because after a while, those suggestions that Facebook makes are the same 400 suggestions that they've always made. And it's like, there's a reason I haven't connected to those people. But I'm just curious if, because that to me seems like it is people choosing certain platforms to be on, it seems like, in that respect.
Mm-hmm.
Well, definitely. LinkedIn was all about career and business, and I think if you're marketing something, almost B2B, business to business, where you're saying, I have a product for you as a writer for your writer business, is one thing, but to go, hey, look at my fantasy book, is less successful there because of the design. Now I still do it. On there. Because I also had a career where I built up a bunch of connections, and I'm like, why not? And I've definitely had some positive results, but it's nothing like, I used to write articles for LinkedIn, and I wrote an article about running a nonprofit, and it got tens of thousands of readers and comments, and because that was really close to the reason LinkedIn was created, as
Mhm.
opposed to if I just you can write a really great article about something that doesn't have to do with that core, even though it is changing, it's still very similar, or very different from all the other social media giants because of why it was created.
Yeah, we got a couple of comments about the kilt fancy.
Kilts are very fancy.
And what tartan do ye go about in today?
Today I would be wearing my Douglas. Not that you can actually see all that well, but yes, I would be wearing my Douglas tartan.
Nice.
What's
What's the little purse thing called?
The
little purse thing?
Sporran.
The sporran, yes. My husband has a sporran, but it's like furry of some sort. I don't know.
I've got one of those too. I've got a badger sporran as well. That
He does World War I reenactments, and he does in a Highland regiment, and they actually do World War I reenactments in kilts. So
I actually teach caber. I teach heavy athletics clinics, and I'm a heavy athletics judge for Scottish games.
Oh my!
So yes, we teach people how to throw heavy objects and heavy people.
Ugh. He just goes back home with huge gashes in his thighs from crawling through barbed wire.
Ouch.
I don't know why. This is what he does.
We drink, we throw heavy things.
Well, right now he's at a Roman event, which they're just drinking, wearing togas and drinking. So
there's an episode of Crossroads I haven't released yet between myself and Mr. Nettles, and we talk a little bit about the Scottish games. Actually.
Oh, I want to hear about
for everybody
that.
There.
Yes, that'll be
That's
fascinating.
Yes.
Yeah, it is fascinating. That was actually a very cool.
Swoon.
Yes, he does, and he teaches people to do the caber toss.
How to toss the big log thingies, right?
Yeah.
I throw. We teach them how to throw the heavy wood. Yep.
That's a challenge.
To use Mr. Lahr's words, to get back on track here.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go back from the heavy wood. Back to this. Right.
She says I missed the games. All right. But the other thing I was thinking about too was if this were to happen again, right? And I was in dependency of the site that went down, for example. Well, I'll never be in dependency because I've diversified enough.
Right.
But if I was to not be able to access that site, I was thinking to myself, would then I go back to MySpace and just check it out? Even I have a thing on MySpace. Would I go back to certain things I have, like Pinterest? Would I go back there and check it out and play with it a little bit more? And I was thinking, that's an interesting thought. Maybe like we get, we work 40 hours a week. Some of us, some of us work more. But if you work a 9-to-5 job, you work 40 hours a week, you can get the weekends off. Maybe it wouldn't be so bad if a social media site shut down for a day, so that you could go play with the other social media sites, right? That was my thought, right? And that way I could diversify. Of course, that would not be beneficial to those social media sites, but and they would never do that because they're greedy. They're greedy as all get out. Yeah. But
how much did Zuckerberg say he lost that for the 6 hours? Like $6 million, $6 billion, something like that. Yeah. So
he lost more with what happened the day before, but yeah.
Oh yes, with the whole
60 minutes and everything like that. But yeah,
that's nothing to him.
No. Yeah. I mean, it's like a sneeze. Just kind of take it for granted, I think, a little bit. But I was just thinking about that. That it would be cool, and maybe that's a good approach for somebody. Is if you want to diversify, shut yourself off from a certain platform for a day and then go to that other platform and play with it and see. Maybe you'll like it better. You never know, right? So
I have a lot of writer friends who take sabbaticals, especially from Facebook and Twitter, because of the venom that they sometimes get. I don't get the venom because I guess I just don't attract that kind of stuff, but they get lots of venom. And they take sabbaticals. And then they work.
It's a little different, though, isn't it? I mean, they completely shut out. They go off the grid.
They do completely off the grid, and then they work. Like for instance, when I set up a mailing thing, I'm gonna try to focus like Chuck Wendig. I love his blog, and he's always great, but he has a lot of problems on Facebook and Twitter. He just seems to be a radar for people just to piss on. I don't know why. He seems fine to me. I don't know what the big problem is. But okay, it's interesting. I never did I never did MySpace. I never did that.
I did MySpace when I was in high school, but I totally quit using it when I went to college because it kind of quit being a thing. So
my sister, I had a younger sister who that was her whole life was online. But see, she had cystic fibrosis. It was hard to get out, and her whole life was online. And when she died, that's how we found her friends, was through her MySpace page. And we had a hell of a time because we didn't have any of her codes or anything. People would just pop up and we'd go, oh yeah, by the way, she's dead. And these are this is where you can go and do things. Yeah, my family's not real good with death. We're just like, we tend to just die. We just tend to die. So, but I remember she loved MySpace, and yeah.
Well,
I was more laughing at your gentle way of communicating her demise to her friends.
She's dead. What do you?
Hey, how's it going? She's dead.
Yeah,
party's over.
I've met people come to, hey, how's your mom and dad? Dead. They've been dead for a long time. So, yeah.
I do like Joe's idea about putting yourself off of things and give yourself the space to try something you've been wanting to try. I do not disturb 2 or 3 hours sometimes, especially during when I'm writing. And I don't even I would get up and not even put anything on for a few hours until I get that writing done and then check everything, because it just becomes distracting. And you could do the same thing if there's something you're putting off that you wanted to try, stop all the other things for a couple hours and just do it. I really like that idea.
It's a great idea.
And see, going off that a little bit, I will schedule posts. I use an app that will schedule posts to multiple social media websites, and it helps me not get lost in the craziness of oh, hey, what's going on this thing, or know how we lose ourselves in it. That helps me focus and stay on task.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, and to kind of circle back around to something Nikki was saying, one of the things that's important, and this is kind of goes back to the scandal for Facebook from Monday, which I don't understand how everybody hasn't picked up on this on the number of these things over the years, is Facebook is going to show you what you respond to because they want to feed you more of that. If you want to see positive interaction, if you want to see things that reinforce building the business, if you want to see things in people that are building and reinforcing what you're doing, that's what you respond to and blow by everything else. If you get tied up into the sucking black holes, the negativity, people pissing on each other, and that's what you get into those fights, that's what the AI is going to say. That's what you want to see. So we're going to show you more of that. The reason that we see people get sucked down some of these deep black holes is because, in essence, Facebook, insert your social media platform here, is the AIs show you more and more of what you respond to because they assume that's what you want to see. If you
I just figured it wasn't cool. Now that makes more sense. I do like the positive things. I go towards the positive or the weird and the just fun. I'm just here for fun. I'm not here to.
This is the tough thing for me about TikTok is because I want to support all my friends and they do different things, and some of them do things that I don't really subscribe to or care about, to be honest with you, but I'm there to support them. So I'm watching their live feeds or I'm watching something they're doing and I watch it all the way to the end and I comment and I like it, or heart it, whatever they call it in TikTok land. And I think it's just like it. But I do that. And then my For You page gets littered with that stuff that I didn't want to see. So it's I gotta break that algorithm.
Because there was a guy that I really liked. I liked his content because that was interesting. But then I started noticing some flags in the background. I thought, whoa, I remember seeing that flag at the insurrection. Oh, shit. Are you one of those guys? Okay, unfriend. And I just unfollowed. I'm out.
Yeah.
Or again, little things in the background. I'm noticing in the background. I'm like, oh, my God. You're funny, but are you one of those guys? Because I can't. And
we're talking about I'm talking about friends that I have, I consider friends.
I do have one friend who's constantly sending me pandemic videos, and he's a friend. He's a good guy, but oh my God, would you stop it with the pandemic? Yeah. I don't want to hear it, and a part of me kind of wants to friend, unfollow, whatever him. But he's not a bad guy. He's just, I don't know.
It's kind of like a gambling addiction in a certain way too, because like the house is going to win eventually, right? So you watch hours of it to try and cleanse yourself of the hours that you've just been doused with. So it's kind of that idea. It's the same thing as like, okay, well, if I only lose this amount and I win this back, I can stop. But I never win that back, right?
No.
I never stop, and it's like.
Well, this guy was one of my first fans. One of my first. He loves the Jake Shinheji stuff. He loves it. He's always telling me. He sent me my very first fan letter. So I kind of feel like he'll never see this. I'm not too worried about him seeing this. So because he doesn't do the YouTube because it's negative. Or Facebook because he's on that side of the fence. But yeah. How sad. Now I'm sad now. Thanks, Joe. I'm sad now.
All right. Well, let's see if I
Damn
can.
social media.
Pam says, I have to write in blocks of time and turn off all social media. It's distracting. And then, Margaret said, I didn't do MySpace either, but I remember cruising GeoCities for fan fiction. And
oh my God, yes!
Stewart said, I did GeoCities in MySpace and appreciating the liquid filth metaphor, Joe, doused with the and yay, oh good, tags are back.
What about, Yahoo groups? And if you guys do, am I old? Yahoo groups? Because I love Yahoo groups.
I'm old. I've done all that crap.
I was a kid, but I did a few Yahoo groups.
Shut up, you.
I can't help it.
No,
to further make me feel old, she had to throw
I almost lost my
I'm
job
sorry.
because of my into Yahoo group. Because a friend of mine, as a whole group I was in, it was back during my New Age ghost hunting days a gajillion years ago, and we all used to, every day, and it was just constant. Towards the end, the bitter infighting that started to happen on the Yahoo, and oh my God, I was on it constantly. But that was a long time ago. I'm sure it's still out there somewhere. But
much like I started a fight this week because I could. Somebody was talking about, MySpace was the first social media, and I was like, all I'm going to do is say BBSs. Don't want to hear any of your shit. Go away.
Go away, young fetus. Piss off.
Get off my lawn.
Yeah.
Oh, funny. Well, along with us, she didn't dress up, but she dressed up her show for us. So,
okay, good.
And I could not find a quote that I didn't find misogynist or racist or anything to go along with this book. So I'm not going to quote it to kind of segue in, but it's one of those books that's polarizing and nonetheless, but there are some indies who have created based upon it. And some people really love this book. So maybe I shouldn't have said those things, but here is the indie connection for this week, everybody.
Hey guys, C.L. Cannon here from Fiction Atlas Press, bringing you another Indie Connection. Today I'm going to be telling you about some indie books that you might enjoy if you're a fan of The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. The first book I have for you is called Gatsby, My Story by Michael Spindler. Near the close of F. Scott Fitzgerald's novel The Great Gatsby, the narrator, Caraway, believes Gatsby to be dead, but the death and funeral have been faked, and Gatsby has escaped to Havana. There he builds a new career, and some years later sets out to put the record straight and counter Caraway's misinterpretation of events and people. In the course of his story, he explains his early life, his experience in the war, his time at Oxford, his hoodlum years, and his relationships with Arnold Rothstein, Jordan Baker, and Daisy. He provides a dramatic new perspective on the events of the summer of 1922 and reveals a complex and engaging character. The second book I have for you is called A Night at Gatsby's by Richard Vigilante. A Night at Gatsby's is an invitation to attend one of Jay Gatsby's fabulous Jazz Age parties and learn his story by listening to the characters' conversations over 6 scenes. All dialogue is taken directly from the novel. No first-person or other narrative content from the novel is being used. All dialogue spoken and all characters portrayed in this play were selected as being appropriate to take place at the single location of Gatsby's mansion. The play follows the novel's chronology from the initial rumors and lies about Gatsby through his reunion with Daisy and confrontation with Tom, and ends with Gatsby's death and lonely farewell. The third book I have for you is called Such Great Heights by Chris Cole. 1 part Gatsby, 1 part John Green, and 1 part Lana Del Rey, the perfect summer cocktail. The easy life is sometimes the hardest life of all. The words rang false to a 17-year-old Charlie Middle when he first heard his cousin Maisie utter them between sips of her gold-flaked martini, but by the end of the summer in California, they were among the truest words he had ever heard. Such Great Heights is a retelling of The Great Gatsby, by way of Social Network and Less Than Zero author Chris Cole, who puts a millennial wardrobe on the jazz age classic. We are offered a ringside seat for the impossible love story of kid billionaire Joss Stember and the heiress Maisie Landing. Told in heartbreaking detail through the eyes of Charlie, we watch these young lovers as they fight against the ceaseless waves of the past in a passionate attempt to make their way toward the shore of the present, battling their own demons and the demons that seem to prey upon them at every turn. Through the lens of recently graduated Midwest teen Charlie Middle, we are afforded a rarefied glimpse into a lifestyle that is usually kept under lock and key. Charlie's innocent summer internship in Silicon Valley quickly morphs into a crucible of excess and intrigue amidst the 1% of the 1%, fraught with star-crossed lovers, million-dollar cars, 24-hour parties, high-tech billionaires, and a pageantry of excess that would put Sodom and Gomorrah to shame, let alone the East and West Egg. And the last book I have for you is called The Lives They Chose by J.D. Jenson. Hoboken, New Jersey, the morning of January 24th, 1918. Daniel Conley, an Irish-American boy from Jersey City, is standing on the deck of the Liverpool-bound Tuscania, a luxury liner resurfaced to transport American troops to fight the war raging in Europe. A few weeks earlier, Daniel, a young 17-year-old, has accepted a job as a cook in the ship's galley, only to learn that rather than preparing the meals, he would instead be washing dishes. As Daniel watches the soldiers boarding the ship, he searches for one person in particular, Brodie Donaghy, hoping his childhood best friend isn't on the ship, but knowing in his heart that he is. After all, it was Daniel who had helped Brodie carry out his plan to board the Tuscania, posing as the young serviceman from Iowa, James O'Shea. Not meeting until the Tuscania is near the end of her journey, Daniel and Brodie, the two former friends, now enemies, part ways, unaware that lurking far below the surface of the Atlantic, waiting for the perfect moment to strike, is a far more deadly adversary, and when it finally attacks, when its full destructive powers are unleashed, the two boys from Jersey City will be tested in ways they have never imagined. Okay, that's all for me this week. I'll see you next week on the Indie Connection. Bye.
Yeah, those are great books. Everybody go check them out.
I remember all offended. I thought it was like on land or something. This is nothing.
Well, I was looking for quotes, and it was like, yeah, I'm not even gonna go there. But it was like interesting. Yeah, I probably shouldn't say that one on the air. That might get me Facebook banned. But I mean,
I've been thrown out of better places.
It's a classic, but you know, and I'm happy for indies who really love it and have embraced it. Hopefully maybe they've elevated it. I don't know, but it was not one of my favorites. Let's put it.
No, it was not my favorite. My son hated it. Oh my God, he almost got kicked out of his English class because he was so fervent about it. How much he hated that book.
I was going to put on a whole new suit, kind of like the Oscars, and do a costume change, but I just changed my hat. So
okay, we'll take a weekend again.
But better thoughts for better days, I guess. Maybe next year I'll do like 3 costume changes. How about that?
I'll wear a tiara. I'll wear a tux. I'm nice. Okay.
I recommend you do it. When my wife turned 40, we had a 1970s costume party for her. And, we rented out a couple days at a ball, at a hotel place. And we rented a room to stay the night. And we changed costumes twice during the event. And so, something would happen, we'd leave, we'd come back, completely different costumes. It was
nice.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome.
Awesome. I think it's playful and fun. I think that's kind of a neat thing to do. It's just interesting, but yeah, I'm not I want to keep these nice. This is nice and pressed and everything. I don't want to just throw it on the floor. Throw it in the drawer or anything like that. I want to be able to hang it and do all that. So I need to have time to do that. So
Yeah.
I'll
You need
just
an assistant or a
well, yeah, that too. That
A
would be
dresser.
Yes.
yeah, but anyway, uh, I mean, we've kind of exhausted the topic, so I was kind of hoping we'd move on to something I've been dying to talk about, but nobody wants to talk about with me because it's math and nobody likes it. And,
all right, go ahead, try.
All right, math. Let's math.
But earlier this week, Mailchimp made interesting inroads into their analytics department and decided to expand the analytics for business to business and small businesses and kind of give you a little bit of a scope of what your email lists, your newsletters were really doing. Who was actually reading them? How much were they reading of it? They had these analytics that they've expanded that I thought was very, very interesting. I was told it was very boring by the 5 people that read it, and yeah, but I found it fascinating. Am I alone in the analytics game? I know I'm not, because I know somebody on this panel who's deep into it as well, Mr. Nettles. But
I did nothing wrong yet.
But it's interesting to me because I think if you know certain things, you can target certain things, and I think that's what those things are for. So I don't know.
Well,
teach me, because I'm a complete novice at this. This is math, and math turns my brain off. So
I haven't explored it yet, but I've been meaning to. This past week's been a little crazy because I use MailChimp and I have a decent sized newsletter, but a lot of them I'm like, okay, are they even reading it, or are they just like opening it, closing it, and like putting it in the junk folder or deleting it, so.
And before MailChimp was very, very, very vague about those kind of things. Mm-hmm. So this is kind of this is really, MailerLite probably is pushed. I don't use MailerLite. I don't even really use MailChimp, to be honest with you. But I just found it fascinating that they were expanding, and I had to think that it was because somebody else was doing it. For YouTube to me, Google Analytics is just fantastic. I really, really enjoy Google Analytics. I can get to the nth degree there and really explore a lot of things and know what I'm trying to do is working or not working, this or that. And it's kind of interesting to me because, as somebody who does a lot of shows and produces a lot of things, if I'm producing something that nobody gives a crap about, why am I producing it, right? So I'm trying to figure all that out, and that helps me tremendously. It breaks it down by demographic, it breaks it down by view count, it breaks it down to when they view it, how long they stay for this or that, and what piques their interest. And I just love Google Analytics for that fact. So I thought if newsletters were going to start to do this, and I'm wondering, I'm my friend Evan Gao and his story origins, I've explored that a little bit, but his analytics are decent, but I didn't think he was really that deep into it either. So I'm wondering where this competition's come from, that MailChimp has decided to really, really get deep into this. Maybe their client base asked for it. I don't know, but
there's a couple of things I do know with MailChimp. So if you look at MailChimp, one of the reasons I've been suggesting for authors, especially if you don't currently have a mailing list, to go to MailerLite, is they will do more for you and a higher subscriber base for free, so you can build things up. They're also a little bit easier platform now to use for drag and drop to build stuff. MailChimp, though, is the main platform that has a lot of B2B integrations and, for everything. So everything ties into MailChimp, and they're moving their business model much more to be small and medium-sized businesses.
Yeah.
So that's where the analytics are coming from. The other thing that's driving a lot of the analytics is the change right now, for everybody that felt it, the big Google or the big mobile Armageddon that happened in the marketing space back in the spring and summer, and we're still seeing a little bit of that fallout now. Well, one of the things that's always been there has been, just because you saw somebody read and opened your email, that meant somebody read and opened it. But that wasn't really all of your open rates, because, for example, if you're already on a mobile device or even if using Outlook or something on your desktop, if somebody just did it in preview mode, it didn't show it as an open. So there's a lot of things where you don't necessarily see all of the analytics around open rates. The changes on the mobile space, because that's where about 60% of interaction and stuff is happening these days, is going to show you even less, because they're going to show you even less of those interactions to give the data unless you have actually opened it up and clicked a link.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're building your emails, one of the things that you do want to put in there is to have a good call to action for somebody to go check something out. So like if you've got, for example, a post or you've written something in there, but you're like, hey, you want to see more of the details, you want to see the pictures, click here to go through to my blog. Click here to go do these other things. We'll show you better demographic data, which means, A, you've got to be telling people something they want to see in the newsletter, in the email, or on your blog, or wherever else. But a lot of it gets down to we're becoming, now the internet's kind of moving into the upper end of the toddler era, where people are recognizing, oh, maybe privacy still has some value. And right now, one of the things that's both good and bad is we see these large corporate entities, the Apples, the Googles, companies that thrive based on owning and managing data are getting a lot into privacy. So think about the big three, Apple, Google, and Facebook, and the amount of data that they're looking at managing, and they're all trying to much more centralize ownership of it by getting rid of cookies and things like that, where now you've got the Google Analytics, you've got Facebook Pixels, you've got these other metrics that people are using. Well, when you see people going away from centralized tools to create metrics to a lot of, if you want the metrics, you've got to have your Facebook Pixel, you've got to have this from Google for your analytics, you've got to have this, you've got to have this. The more of that you're doing to maintain and monitor and manage what you're doing tells you how much that data is actually worth to these companies. Mm-hmm. So back to the original question of MailChimp providing more of this data, it's because they're shifting their view away more from the very small users up to wanting they've always wanted the small business and mid-sized companies to get on there and use that. And they're growing what that peak size company that they can service is.
Yeah.
Yeah. You got to provide those analytics.
That makes a lot of sense. Within this article, I was reading about hashtagging and meta tagging, and the idea that you can integrate both ideas and measure those as well, and which to me has always been that the only place I know of that I can do that on are TikTok and Instagram. If you don't know, anybody who doesn't know there, if you're trying to test a hashtag, all you have to do is type it in on your phone, and it'll give you how many views it's gotten, how many people look at it and use that tag, and that'll help you in some respects. Some of it is misleading, but it does help you design how you hashtag, and meta tagging has always been kind of that mystery for a lot of people, especially via HTML users and things of that nature. But and the only way that they've ever been able to measure it is searching on Google, right? That's the only metric that is ever created. But if they can hone those skills into a newsletter and use those kind of things for a newsletter, you can hone to the nth degree what exactly you can pinpoint what people are actually reading at that point, which I found very fascinating.
Another really helpful tool is Uber Suggest, which the first layers of it are free. Of course, it starts generating revenue and stuff. Neil Patel bought it and has expanded it pretty significantly. Mm-hmm. But if you're doing research about keywords, your website traffic, what's going on, what's it doing, it's a really helpful tool that can give a lot of insight into where people coming in from and going to. And like Ron was saying, if I'm running Facebook ads, am I spending money in the right place? And this is one of those things that, because I'm getting ready to teach the Facebook class again, or the digital ads class again. So I'm trying to update all that for the latest rules around the analytics. And we've been doing some testing with some clients where we're looking at what are they doing. And we're only spending a couple of bucks a day during this learning phase, which means it takes longer, but it makes it easier, especially for authors, to do a little bit of A/B testing And one of the really helpful things that we're doing when we drive traffic to Amazon instead of somewhere else is making sure we're using affiliate links.
Yeah.
Because not only can you maybe make a little bit more money off of it, the data you get by somebody clicking on the affiliate link is worth it to get the data.
That's why I do it. I mean, the pennies on the dollar I don't give a crap about. But to know how many people are clicking on what I'm doing is really valuable to me, because that means that I have merit, and I can figure out what demographic I can aim for. Targeting is so different now too on Facebook ads. It seems like it's gotten broader, and it's a tougher to narrow down, because they name the categories. You can't name them. If you put in a category that doesn't exist, they're just not going to let you use it. So it's kind of interesting how Facebook's kind of catered to the more broader scope of things. That's at least what I found. I mean, I don't know. I could be wrong, but.
Well, and the new pooling method that both Facebook and Google are going to for putting people into ad categories, and the way that that's meant to work is meant to make it a little bit more both easier in terms of creating shotgun advertising, to simplify it for smaller advertisers, because it brings in more of them. Because the more simplified you can make it, the more effective you can make it, those smaller advertisers are going to go with it. But at the same time, when you look at the pools, the way they're breaking them down, it's going to be interesting to see how much easier or more complicated it makes it to do the real targeted marketing to hit your real targets.
Get yourself a pixel number. That's all I can say about, if you want to know deep analytics, get yourself a pixel number, because you have it. You just got to use it. If you don't use it in your ads to target, you're going to get the generics analytics. But the pixel gives you a lot more analytics, and Facebook, it's their way to make more money, but whatever.
And if you've got a good mailing list that's solid, that gives you a really good lookalike audience to start from to define the people you want to target for ads.
Yeah. I think, I don't know. Everybody here who uses Facebook ads, have you found it to be broader? Or is that just my sense? I guess I don't know. Ron, have you? Yeah.
Well, I haven't been using it for a while, waiting for. I put one book out and I started doing ads, and of course, like most people, I wasn't making enough money back. Customer acquisition cost more than the profit I was making on the one book, and I didn't have more books for them to buy. So I'm like, all right, well, I've learned what I need to know about it, and I'll be ready to go when I have more books. So now that there'll be 4 books out, I'm gonna get back into it. So my answer is no.
I agree with Ron on this, because I didn't get a whole lot, and I don't know if it was an issue with the audience or what, but they've kind of put them on the back burner, and I'm working on BookBub and Amazon ads.
I found it's more effective in non-selling parameters than it is in selling parameters. Like if you're directing somebody to a website versus directing them to a buy link, I think it's become more effective in that respect. That's been my little bit of experience.
And the other thing that we're finding some good success with is YouTube ads.
Mm-hmm.
Reddit ads have been hit or miss, but YouTube ads have been.
Google Ads has upped their game. They've upped their game, and it's impressive. I've looked at that too, but and their acquisition per cost is very, very low. It's very nice. It's very cool. I'm really excited to explore that further. But I get the analytics I need from Google already. So unless they're going to start broadening out, and I'm going to lose those little analytics, that's okay. I know we've talked enough math. I know everybody's falling. So anyway. Yes, I can geek out about numbers all day long, especially stats. I'm a big stats guy, but anyway, I find it extremely helpful. So I don't know. Anyway, all right. As I hear crickets in the background now,
Well, I think you make a good point, though. If we're going to put all this effort into newsletters or ads or whatever we're doing, it's really good to at least get a basic understanding of what's working and what's not. So even if we don't go as deep as you're talking about, we should be doing this, I think.
I think so.
It's a good point.
Thank you, Julie. Thank you so much for backing me up. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, I do look at it. I might not go as deep as you guys, but I definitely look at it, and it's helped me a lot so far. So I encourage people to try and do it.
Awesome. Well, on that note, let's tell everybody where we can find each other. And so, Julie, I'll go the opposite direction here. So, Julie, why don't you start us off and tell everybody where they can catch you at?
Really simple. Just go to killersanddemons.com. And I'm running a virtual Halloween party book launch on Thursday, October 28th. It will be a 1-hour live stream to my author page, followed by a Zoom room mingle. And it's full out for adults to have fun on Halloween. So we're going to have costume contests, makeup contests, cocktails, everything. But just go to killersanddemons.com and join in the fun there.
Nice. Awesome. Yeah, I highly recommend. Julie's Zoom parties are pretty awesome. I've been to a couple. They're pretty cool. So I highly recommend it. All right, Jim, tell everybody where they can find you, sir.
You can find me at jamespnettles.com, authoressentials.net, authoressentialsworkshops.com. You can find us at continualconvention.com. And then this coming weekend, I will be in Atlanta at Multiverse, and our esteemed or guilty host or something like that, he and I are going to be there together to hang out and cause some trouble, I think. And one of my goals is going to be to get him kilted out if I remember to carry the stuff. Other than that, on Continual, we're going to be having a couple of holiday bar cons and some holiday events coming up as well.
Nice. Awesome. Yes, I look forward to hanging out next weekend. That's going to be a lot of fun for sure. All right. Nikki, why don't you tell everybody where they can find you?
Sure. You can go to my website, nnhbooks.com, or you can find all my stuff on Amazon. I'm on all the social medias, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube. Maybe I'm on YouTube. All those places, look up Nikki Nelson-Hicks or Nick Cubed, NIKCUBED. I'm going to be at Canuga in February. That's one thing I've really got set up so far, since Southern Festival of Books completely on us this year. And that's really about it.
Let me guess. Is that in Chattanooga, perhaps?
Oh, you think? Yes.
Clever. Very clever, those folks are. Awesome. All right, Madilynn, tell everybody where they can find you.
All right, guys. You can follow me on my website. I've got it listed here for your convenience. And you can find my multi-genre books there as well. And I am all over social media. I'll tell you the easiest way to find the links to those is on my website there.
Nice. Awesome. And I'm Joe Compton, and this is Going In Out. Congratulations, you found us. Good for you. Now, while you're here, you might as well subscribe since you're here, and you know that we bring you very well-dressed content all the time. Mm-hmm. And we have some really great stuff coming up and some really great stuff out there already. So we've been rocking and rolling this fall season, and we've gotten a lot of shows out, and I plan on getting quite a bit more. And like Mr. Nettles said, we will be at Multiverse covering a lot of the excitement and fun that no doubt that convention brings. Myself and Katie Solitis will be doing quite a bit of live stuff there. So I hope you guys come and check us out. And if you're in Atlanta and you are going to be at Multiverse, make sure you let me know so that we can come and say hello. And you don't have to be on camera if you don't want to, but I might stick it in your face, so you never know. So just get ready to enjoy fun and excitement, and I'm real excited about it. And smash that like button while you're here. I've talked enough. We've all talked enough.
I forgot one thing, because otherwise Anita's going to smack me. October Fright's blog hop starts today.
Yes.
So you can go out there and make the blog hop getting around, and I've got to turn that site back on so that the story will post.
Nice. Awesome. And you need to get that done, sir. Get it done. But with that being said, the last final 5 minutes goes to our awesome, esteemed friend, colleague, and purveyor of this great event, the man who had the idea to do this. So it was only fitting that he gets the last 5 minutes. Mr. Ron Lahr, take it away.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity. I'm very excited that we did this. And I wanted to start off by telling about how I started my tuxedo collection. So I've been married to this current wife for 12 years. We celebrated our 12-year anniversary last month. And when we were getting ready for our fancy wedding, we went to look at tuxedos. And I said, it's kind of bullshit that you get to keep your wedding dress forever and spend a lot of money on it. And I'm just supposed to rent a tux. And it means a little more when, I have some germ issues. So the idea of renting clothes from people, it's bad enough to buy clothes for costumes or something, and they have to be laundered thoroughly. But to rent something, anyway, I said, I should buy my tux. And we were at a tuxedo shop at the time, and my wife said, well, that's stupid, because when are you going to wear a tux? You have no reason to wear a tux. And I said, I have many opportunities to wear a tux, but you are like an anchor dragging me down because you don't have any ball gowns. So she says, fine, go ahead and get it. I bought the tuxedo. We started going to events where we wore tuxedos quite often, so much so that she bought me a second tuxedo for Christmas a couple years later, creating the real collection. But anyways, so I feel like I'm totally winning the marriage. That's all I'm going to say about that. I write, first of all, my website is here, cathaldi.com, and that's for my fantasy books, although you can find the links to everywhere that I am on social media, my email address, my personal home, or my cell phone number. I'm just kidding. I don't give that out. But I write fantasy that has a humor component to it. I write humorous science fiction. I have one of those coming out later this year. You Get What You Steal. And then I write humor. And tomorrow or the next day, I'll be releasing You're as Stupid as You Are Fat, How to Talk to Women. An awful book. Well, I got divorced and started dating, and I was dating somebody, and she said, you are awful at talking to women. And I said, that's crazy. I'm like a genius at talking to women. And to prove it, I decided to write a book about how to talk to women. So, but when I started working on it, it became quite different from my first vision. And the character who was writing the book turned out to be misogynist and slightly homophobic, just an awful person. And so I created a character to do that, and so it wasn't coming from my lips, even though it's still awful. And it's supposedly a self-help book about how to talk to women, but really it's just, I think it's funny, but I also think it's awful, and I'm very excited about the deluge of shit I'm about to receive from readers, and even people who just read the title and attack me. So I'm going to read just a tiny bit of it. The first chapter is What Exactly Are Women? Life is a minefield and women are the mines. That's a metaphor or something designed to teach you that women are all kinds of trouble. If you're a straight guy or a lesbian, they're also the ultimate prize. It just seemed like a classy way to start things off, and if you learn anything from reading this book, it'll be that I'm really classy. Anyway, on to the answer in the rest of the book. Technically, women are human beings. Really? In fact, they're around half of the human beings on the planet, except for China, where there's a high rate of accidents for girl children. But don't get me started on China, or I might never stop. Remember the guy with the men are from one planet or women are from some other planet, and neither planet is Earth? Well, he was effeminate and wussy, and wrong. Men are not from another planet. We are the normal ones. We don't freak out once a month. Think of it this way. Men live in Normalopolis, and women are from Crazy Town. I actually wanted to use that as the title of the book, but was talked out of it by my publisher or editor or lawyer. Supposedly, men live in Normalopolis, and women are from Crazy Town doesn't flow, or it's insulting, or I'm a jerk. I can't remember which, or maybe it was all of them, but the point is, my editor or lawyer or publisher didn't like it. I wasn't really listening to her because she had a great rack. All right, that's all I'm going to do from that. Anyway, I hope you buy the book, enjoy it, and then insult me about it. But the most important thing is that it's always time to go indie now. So goodbye.